Well, we go now to the recent rerun of the Judicial Service Commission interviews. 5 names have been put forward to fill 2 justices' seats at the Constitutional Court. They include legal minds such as Ramake Matopo, Mokhube Molamela, Jody Collipin and Faiza Kathri Setulwane. But 2 men who are known as for their legal prowess didn't make the cut. They're David Unterhalter SC and Alan Dodson SC, and some say it might be because they're men and they're white. Nicole Fritz is the executive officer for the non-profit group Freedom Under Law, and she's been closely following those JSC hearings. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Nicole. This is not the first time it's happened. We had it happening with Jeremy Gauntlet, and Julius Malema, who sits on the JSC panel, himself said to David Unterhalter that he was a very good candidate but didn't fit the transformation agenda. Does this mean there is no place for white judges on the Constitutional Court bench at least?
No, I don't think it can mean that. I think it must be said up front that many of those on that short list of 5 are entirely deserving of their place, and anyone watching the interviews on Monday would have been struck by the considerable talents and skills that those who were interviewed will make available to our bench. But I have to say that the fact that Bashir Vali was included in that shortlist after his interview performance on Monday, where he seemed to show at every turn his unfitness for elevation to our highest court. He was irascible towards the commissioners, just demonstrated uncollegiality to his peers, and in fact seemed to blame his registrar, his subordinate. And the fact that he was included over candidates such as Alan Dodson and David Unterhalter, who both have had these very distinguished legal careers and in fact have served South Africa abroad on international adjudicative tribunals, did seem to say that the JSC would have preferred any candidate, at least in this instance, bar another white male, over Dodson and Unterhalter. And I think that should leave us concerned that, in fact, we're not looking to harness the greatest possible array of strengths, experiences and skills on our highest court.
I mean, Vali's been accused of not having a appropriate judicial temperament. Surely judicial temperament and legal acumen are the top deciders in who gets the job, just not at the Constitutional Court, but in a high court too.
Absolutely. I think that those are qualities that need to be taken into account, at every level for judicial appointment. And so, I mean, certainly those are qualities that must rank highly. But I want to stress that when I make these criticisms, when I think others in the legal fraternity are making these criticisms, it's not to say that transformation is not important. I mean, there is a constitutional imperative, right? That transformation must happen, that our bench must reflect the broad demographics of South Africa. And of course, one must note that one of the tragedies of Monday's interview process is that the pool of women that was available for selection was smaller because of the April debacle. Judge Di Pillay did not make herself available. So instead of there being 3 possible female candidates to be shortlisted, there were only 2. So I mean, yes, intellectual rigor, acumen, judicial temperament, experience, absolutely important, but so too is transformation. And I don't think, those who are making the criticisms of Monday's interviews should be heard to be saying, oh, well, these attributes must come at the cost of transformation. That is certainly not the critique that I'm making.
So the judiciary must reflect the gender and racial composition of the country. What does this say about why women aren't applying for these top jobs?
Well, there are many barriers to them making themselves available. But I think, if we look at the April process and we look at the attack that Judge Di Pillay was subjected to by commissioners such as Malema, but then also essentially by the Chief Justice, and I do think that there are particular circumstances in which women find themselves and the way they are required to appear, particularly in a legal context where they must be both authoritative and appealing. I think that example was a disincentive. I mean, we know that Judge Pillay has just chosen not to make herself available. Obviously, we don't know. I mean, she hasn't made known what the reason for that is, but one has to assume that given her experience in April's proceedings, she chose not to make herself available. And I suppose, any candidates looking at that and thinking that they might be subject to such an experience, it's going to act as a disincentive.
Nicole, what happens next after these interviews? There is a shortlist. What's the process now?
Well, the shortlist is provided to the president, and he, sort of conferring with the Parliament and the JSC, will then make his selection of 2. So he's been given 3 more names, as is constitutionally required, than the 2 vacant appointments. We are likely to see, and certainly we are hoping that, we will see more appointments to the bench very soon, in that the seats, Justices Kampepe and Justices Jafta retire soon, so their seats will be available. And of course, if the president makes the appointment of the Chief Justice from among those judges sitting on the Constitutional Court already, so we know that Acting Chief Justice Zondo and Justices Madlanga are in the running. If one of those 2 are appointed, then essentially Chief Justice Mogoeng's seat becomes available. So there are potentially 3 more seats that need to be filled very soon on the Constitutional Court. And certainly one would hope that the interview processes that happen for those appointments absolutely take into account and seek to make available to the court the broadest array, the richest diversity of what our country has to offer and what our legal profession has to offer, so that the court is a shining example, as it has been in the past, for that richness of expertise, of experience, of diversity.
All right, thank you so much. As always, that was Freedom Under Law's Nicole Fritz. Thank you again for your time.